Let's do this. What do you say, everybody? This is Unfound Live for November 4th of 2024. I am, of course, Unfound's host, the podcast host, Ed Densel. And all of you are who you are. I have a great, fantastic, spectacular show lined up for you tonight. As you can see in the title, we are going to, of course, I use the word revisit for the podcast episodes, but we have some Jodi Huisentruit news. Going to take a look at that tonight. Some of you have sent me that article, making sure that I see it. I really appreciate when people do that. Thank you for thinking of me and knowing which disappearances that Unfound has featured. So I really appreciate that. And I certainly hope that you once in a while go to the findjodi.com page. We'll get into that a little later, and have listened to all of the episodes they've done with the podcast. So there's all of that. We'll get into that later. Like I said, I've said that twice already, Ed. I know. And then we got the defense side of the Delphi trial going on, and had a interesting conversation with Assistant Shree. I don't know if she's in here tonight or not, but what's going on there. And then a story that I talked about here on the live show maybe earlier this year, maybe last year, regarding the woman who dressed up as a clown. I have some information on that and a whole bunch of other stuff that can be covered tonight. We'll see how much other stuff we get to. But as you are watching tonight, you know I say it every week, at least a couple times. Give this video a thumbs up, like it, share it. If you're finding the YouTube channel for the first time, subscribe down there in the bottom right-hand corner. In addition, if you'd like to support what we do here, you can hit the join button below if you are watching on YouTube, if you're watching on particular devices, that is. You can go to patreon.com/unfound podcast to support what we do there. PayPal.me/unfound podcast. And then specifically for tonight's foray into true crime news, you can hit the super chat button. I don't know if it's like I say this every week and then I forget what it is when you tell me. Gray, green, yellow, blue. I don't know what color it is, but it's down there like at the bottom of the chat. And if you'd like to contribute that way to what we do, if you're enjoying the show tonight, you can hit the super chat button below. So let's see who's in here, and then I'm going to do a recap of my week. Hello, Karen. Hello, Hazel. See, you got in here early, Hazel. In fact, way early. Maybe, Hazel, you didn't realize that we moved the clocks back here in the United States yesterday. So did you get in here, Hazel, thinking, where is everybody? I would be the same way, Hazel. Good to see you coming out of Hazel, straight out of New Zealand, you might say. Mary Jane. Yes, Sarah. Hello, Sarah. There's Nephew Charlie. He and I had a good time. I'm going to get into at least some of that here in a moment. Nephew Charlie, good to see you tonight. Toad Kiss, what's up? Amy. Hello, Charlotte. What's going on, Charlotte? Where you been? I don't know. Haven't seen you as much in the chats and everywhere else. I hope you're doing well, Charlotte, whatever's going on in your life. Hello, D. Yeah, that's all right, D. The weather sometimes gets in the way, as I found out over the course of late September into late October. So maybe, D, we'll get together some other day and do whatever you want to do with your live show. Sheree, thanks for tuning in tonight, moderating. I did mention you just a moment ago. Suzanne, good to see you as well. So what went on since all of you saw me last week? Well, I was over in Orlando a little bit. Drove over there on Saturday morning, somewhat busy drive, got over there. And I came back on Saturday night. It was even busier coming back on a Saturday night. There was a real bad wreck somewhere around Lakeland on the I-4. And like 4 cars were involved, and it was pretty ugly. On the way out, though, you're going to leave on a Thursday morning. A lot of cars. Were there any wrecks or anything? Probably was, but it just seems to me that driving back was worse than driving out. So I went over there and saw nephew Charlie, who is in the chat. You see him as Charles in here every week. Also got to see his mother, my sister Diane, and her husband, my brother-in-law Jim. And then on Friday, my brother Brian, Diane's brother Brian, came over. And then he stayed until Saturday night. In fact, he and I left around the same time on a Saturday night. He left before I did, though. But it was around the same time. But I think he got, of course, when it comes over here to Pinellas County, he doesn't have as long a drive as I do. So he got home well before I got home, even though I think he was only like 10 minutes ahead of me. So we were over there, had a great time. Just a really, really good time. I'll give you just some of the highlights or lowlights, depending. We'll just start here. Of course, I went over there on Halloween, and we took part. Brian wasn't there yet, so the 4 of us took part in a Halloween trivia contest. And my sister, Charlie, and Jim lost to a 12-year-old in Halloween trivia. It's true. And they were holding it. They were holding this little competition contest at the timeshare complex where my sister has her timeshare there. And I forget, Charlie. I think we missed 3 questions, or maybe 4 if Charlie had not. Remember the Frankenstein question, Charlie? I think we switched that one over, but I still think we missed like 3 questions. And this cheerleader, this 12-year-old cheerleader, I think she was playing by herself. And the reason I call her a cheerleader, she was dressed up as a zombie cheerleader. So we lost to her. So my karma from trivia over here in Pinellas County, like general trivia, did not carry over to playing Halloween trivia, unfortunately. But then we did, of course, I did the show. I'm going to talk about the Dr. Telesco show here in a little bit, but some of you who watched it know that I dressed up, had an Uncle Sam hat on with the wig. And after that show was done, we all went out, and for dinner, I took off the wig but left the hat on. And I know many of you follow me on my private Facebook page. You saw the picture that was taken. I was dressed up, or just had the Uncle Sam hat on. My sister Diane was dressed up as a hippie from the 60s, so I was just calling her like a Grace Slick type from Jefferson Airplane. Charlie was dressed up fantastically as this really, very, very cool gold suit with a black shirt and gold tie. And what I'm still not sure what you were supposed to. I was just calling you Mr. Cool, Charlie. So I wasn't sure what kind of character you were. So I was just calling you Mr. Cool in the labeling of that, but that was spectacular. And then Jim was dressed up as a minion of course, Despicable Me and even the Minions have their own movie series as well. We went out, had a good time, and Halloween was really good. And then we came back, jumped in the hot tub, and did the lazy river. And you can do that in late October into November. Here in Florida, especially when the water is heated. So good time over there on Thursday. And then going into Friday, like I said, my brother showed up. We played this card game called Skybow. And I think we all did our fair share of winning between me, Charlie, Brian, and Diane. It seemed like early on Brian had the hot hand. And then by the time Saturday evening rolled around, the cards were going in my direction. But I think everyone won at least a little bit. I'm not getting into the explanation of the game. You can look it up for yourself. But it's a game where you have an opportunity to really screw over, of course, the person next to you. And there is a lot of luck involved in luck of the cards. It's a little bit of a skill game, but it's a lot of luck as well. So we did that. But then we also on Saturday, we played miniature golf. And I'm happy to say I won. But it was not without some challenges at the end. It kind of got out to a big lead. And then my putting let me down there at the end. And my brother Brian had an opportunity to maybe catch me, but it didn't quite happen. So I think I ended up winning by 3 strokes. And we played right there. I was told that I had played that course before. I don't remember it, but, you know, I've been over there many times with them. So, of course, it's highly possible. I just don't remember. But we were played at this course that's right on International Drive, right in the center of the tourist area of Orlando there. And it was a good time, really good time. Fairly busy, even though we got there, what I would say was pretty early, but we got there before it started raining, which was nice. And it's like pirate themed, so it was pretty cool. And we had some good meals. Like I said, we went out on Halloween, and then we went to this NYPD pizza place on Saturday or on Friday. And then on Saturday, we got ice cream or custard at this place called Freddy's. And then we had dinner right there on the property at the Marriott Lake Shores on Saturday night. And then at some point, I forget what time. Brian and I must have taken off somewhere in the 9 o'clock hour or something like that, and got home. And it was a good time. It brings back a lot of good memories. And there you go. Hazel doesn't forget. It's karaoke video. No, there isn't. We really didn't have a chance to get over there. Hazel, unfortunately. It was on my mind, but there was an agenda over, there was things to do, and my sister had things pretty well planned out, what she wanted to do and everything, so just did not happen, Hazel, but I'm still practicing. And it'll happen one of these days soon, maybe. I guess I'll have to do it over here in Pinellas County somewhere, because I really don't know the next time I'll be going over to Orlando. So it was a good time. Like I said, it brings back a lot of memories. First time I ever went with them over to Orlando goes way back to 1996. So less than over half of my lifetime ago. It's hard to believe. And then I think we did that in like 2001, like right before September 11th. And then the years kind of get mixed up in there. But I'd say that I've, of course, since I moved to Florida, it's a lot easier to do. I don't know, 3 or 4 times over the last I know one of these years was 2017. I know one of the other years was like 2020, but there has to be a couple more in there somewhere. So we went over there, and it's always a good time, always brings back memories, good memories. And I even told my sister that before I left, going here brings back a lot of great memories. Of course, back then, when we go over there, we'd go to Disney or Universal, and I'm always ready to go to those places, I guess. But really, these days, it's just about spending good family time together. Not exactly about going places and spending money and things. It's just sitting around playing cards, hanging out in the hot tub, stuff like that. That's what we do now. We're all older now, I guess you might say. So that was it. Really went fast. Thursday morning until Saturday night, it just went, boom, 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 boom. It went by fast. So there was that. And, not sure when we will all be able to do that again. So Charlie is saying for Halloween, just needed an excuse to wear it. All right, I got it. I got you, Charlie. Hello, Dee Dee. I see you, Dee Dee. Wow, it's good to see you, Dee Dee. It's been a while on the live show. It's been a while. Good to see you. Of course, I see you on Facebook, but I think it's been a while since I saw you on here. Good to see you. Hello, Leslie. What's going on with you? No karaoke videos. Sorry. You let me down, Charlie. No, I know. It's certainly not Charlie's. We just didn't do it. We just we really weren't near there. I guess we were kind of near there when we went to play miniature golf, but that's really the only time we ever came close to like the touristy area. So I let you down, Hazel. Don't put that on Charlie. I let you down. There was no singing. And Marty is here. Marty of I'm going to talk about you in a second, Marty. Marty of Wheel of Fortune fame. And everybody's here while I can be. Carrie, everybody should say congratulations to Carrie. She got a promotion at work that she told me about today. So everybody can congratulate Assistant Carrie on that in her everyday job. Carrie, spectacular to see you here tonight. But going back to Marty, I unfortunately missed it because while Marty was on Wheel of Fortune on Halloween, I was doing my show with Dr. Telesco. I guess just some bad timing. And on top of that, I forgot to set it for the DVR before I left on Thursday. So I missed you, Marty. But Marty, who is in the chat, he is he's in the discussion group. He is a Patreon supporter. He's a member of the think tank. Really good guy. But he had told me a while ago that he'd been on something and he couldn't say what it was. And I want everybody to know, anybody's concerned, he did stick to his word. He did not leak the information or anything like that. But he participated. Of course, it was taped months ago. But he was on Wheel of Fortune. Unfortunately, he didn't get to the final wheel. And I have to say, Marty, I really don't watch Wheel of Fortune unless I'm up there with my dad, to be honest. But I think you won like $18,000 on there. And that has to be a really, really high number for somebody who doesn't win. I don't know if you keep track of that or anybody keeps track of that or whatever. But to win $18,000 and not go to the final wheel seems unusual. So I guess it wasn't meant to be. I just hope you don't get hammered with the taxes, Marty. And like I said, being that I haven't seen the episode that you were on, I can't even comment on the puzzles or anything. So maybe we could have some fun with that if I had. Everybody's congratulating Carrie. That's nice. All right. No worries, Ed. It was a blast. Marty says, hello, Mary. What's going on with you? Kathy, Marty, nice to see you. Yeah, Marty made it for the think tank last night. Kathy, I guess you did catch, yeah, Mary, who was on? Marty was on Wheel of Fortune on Halloween of all nights. And he did tell me he tried to get maybe some Unfound logo, but they weren't having any of that. Marty says it was the lady that won got a special wedge. Otherwise, I would have been against the big wheel, but no sour grapes. It was a great time. Okay. All right, Marty. See, you handle losing a lot better than I do, Marty. As everybody knows. Although I think Charlie would testify. I think I was pretty laid back about losing in trivia. And I was pretty laid back on losing a lot of those hands of Sky Joe. I think I handled it pretty well. Although I did win at miniature golf. All right. So, Marty, congratulations to you. So, that's really what's gone on over the past week. Continuing, of course, I'm over there. While I was over there, can't get much Unfound work done, which was understandable. Wasn't able to practice my singing or anything else. So we're going to get back to that tomorrow. In fact, the Patreon blog for all you Patreon supporters, it's like half done. I'm going to try to work on it tomorrow, even though I'm making an appearance tomorrow and I'm doing an interview tomorrow night. So, Ed is a busy guy. Of course, idle hands are the devil's workshop here. So, Ed, I think they deduct the taxes automatically. I'm sure they do. Kathy being the resident tax expert. Yeah, they did not allow me to wear anything Unfound, but I tried. Well, I appreciate that, Marty. I really appreciate that. So that was my week. That was really, really about it. My dad's great. I didn't talk to him today. Spoke to him yesterday. In fact, I called him when I was driving home from Orlando on Saturday night. Dad is doing good. And you better type fast, Ed. Way to go. You better type fast, Ed. I don't know what does that mean, Carrie? You kind of lost me there. So let's just get right into the show now. So there we go. And Charlie, it was great seeing you and seeing Diane and seeing Jim. And I hope everybody had as great a time as I did. And by the way, Charlie actually cooked for me. He had some leftover steak from a dinner that he and his parents went to, I guess on Wednesday night, was it, Charlie? And Charlie made me a steak and cheese sandwich. If you don't know Charlie, my nephew, skilled chef. Skilled. Has a very strong background in restaurants and things and cooking. And he made me a spectacular steak and cheese sandwich. I guess it would have been on Saturday. Was that Saturday afternoon? I think it was, Charlie. Or was it Friday? I'm losing track of the days now. So that was spectacular. And of course, he knows not to put the onions on it because both myself and his mother can't eat onions due to our digestive issues. But that was a spectacular sandwich. And he made one for himself, too. So now I'm feeling real hungry. That's what I do. The blog between everything else going on. Yeah, I got to type. I am a pretty good typist, pretty fast typist. I know none of you have ever seen me type, but I got skills. It helps that I was a piano player. All right, moving on. Because I was over, there is really there was no Unfound poll for the disappearance of Lene Westbrook from this past Friday. Dare I say it's a disappearance that presents itself in a way that you can only naturally go to one particular conclusion regarding her disappearance. And of course, we hope that that's not the case. Of course, we would hope that Lene is still out there alive. Something weird happened that night, and that she is out there alive somewhere. I don't think the odds of that are very high. But we also have to remember this is a disappearance that's just 4 years old. So we shouldn't be surprised if we revisit this disappearance a few years down the road that we have more facts. And in fact, maybe it will get solved, especially since it is a disappearance. Of course, in Unfound's world, it's a fairly young, what we might say, young disappearance. To remind all of you, the average age of a disappearance we feature on Unfound is easily over 20 years old. And so when we look at a disappearance that's only 4 years old, that's young in our world. We realize for the families that 4 years feels like 100 years, feels like 1,000 years. But I do keep those statistics, and just simply from a stats and science point of view, we just have to remember these things. That when you take a look at a Lene Westbrook disappearance that's 20 some years old, then you have the ability of time to kind of look back and, well, what has the Jeff character done with his life since, and everything. Something you can't do with a disappearance that's only 4 years old. In fact, 4 years is not just, well below the average, but, we've covered 350 disappearances now. And for a disappearance to only be 4 years old when Unfound covers it, I got to be in the top 30 of the youngest disappearances that have been featured. So have to remember that. Always remember that. Now, as far as Precious goes, last night during the think tank, we did get into this discussion regarding, if Lene is deceased, does that mean Precious is gone as well? Probably does. And then the question is, do you think that they will be found together? And it was a little bit of a split on that. If we're to believe that Jeff is responsible for this, did Precious really just run off? And then something happened to Precious out there in the wild? Or did Jeff do something to her? Just, I don't, but it was kind of a split decision when I asked the think tank last night. Once again, patreon.com/unfound podcast, if you want to join, of whether Precious would be found with Lene or not. Once again, if Lene is deceased. Amy says her beloved dog. Yes. And somebody, as I think it was Leah in the think tank last night, pointed out very correctly, Precious is also the name of the dog in Silence of the Lambs. The dog that ends up down in the pit at the end of the movie. Remember that? How that victim, she lures the dog and gets, yanks it down into the down into that well. And the killer, the serial killer, that's his dog. And he's all ticked off about that. That dog's name was Precious as well. And in fact, I'd love to know if Lene named that dog after the dog in Silence of the Lambs. And that's, of course, on my mind because my mother was in Silence of the Lambs. And just recently I posted a picture, a screenshot of my mother's appearance in that movie. It's so weird how that all happened, like around the same time. So yeah, Marty, think tank with exclamation points. Yeah, you should join. Marty's in the think tank. Kathy's in the think tank. We have other, Sarah is in the think tank. We have many of this think tank members who show up here on Monday nights. You can get to know them if you like them. Well, you can join them in another venue where we talk about the disappearances in depth, things that never come out, theories and discussions that don't come out in the episodes themselves. Veronica working like crazy, but I had to come sport Ed regardless. Well, thank you, Veronica. You should know Veronica. Veronica is one of my most favorite female names. Not sure why. I don't know. It's just something about it. Veronica. Great name, Veronica. Precious is a quite popular dog's name. Is it Hazel? All right. I wonder if it's because of the movie then, Hazel. Since I don't have any pets, I wouldn't necessarily know that. But I am wondering, is it popular because of the movie? Because that movie, of course, it's just not an Academy Award winner, but it's not ranked as high as The Godfather. But there have been lists where Silence of the Lamb gets into the top 20 all time. And of course, then the dog and the name's going to get attention. Then people name their dogs that. So that might be interesting if somebody were to know that. Because they're precious. My baby Chi-Chi's mother was called Precious. All right. Well, pets are precious, but there are a lot of great word names, I guess. You're welcome, Veronica. I'm going to keep up the great work, Veronica. I am going to do that. Thank you for what do I want to say? Thank you for motivating me, Veronica. Thanks. Now, all pets are precious, Amy says. Okay. So that's the disappearance of Lene Westbrook. Like I said, this the man said type of disappearance. There's no reason to believe what Jeff said. You heard about Jeff and his character in that episode. And it's just not one of the more mysterious disappearances that we've featured, but it still needs to be resolved one way or the other. All right, moving on. As I mentioned earlier, I had the Dr. T show, Dr. Telesco's show on Thursday night. I'm hoping you tuned in. If you did, you saw me with a little wig on and the hat on. And I tried to put the beard on, but it wouldn't stick. And actually, I did that show from over there in Orlando in the timeshare over there. And I thought it went really, really well. I if nothing else, I could show that I can really talk off the top of my head about my own theoretical disappearance. And I just kind of it's like telling my own story. So you probably, when you're watching that, I don't look over, even though I have my notes there, just like I have in the notes for every live show that I do. Really just comes off the top of my head. I'm just visualizing me going out trick-or-treating, and somehow, some way, I go missing while over in my brother Brian's neighborhood. And, the way I painted the picture last Thursday night, it would be a really, really, really rare type of disappearance, given who I am. There certainly are people who go missing trick-or-treating, mostly kids. But when you start figuring in kind of the way that I live my life, I don't easily fall into a category that of missing person. Of course, if I had mental health issues or drug issues or relationship issues and things, we all know by this point that really makes the percentage chance go way up. Of course, have none of that. On the other hand, as I talked about very bluntly on the show, and I think I've always talked about this, although it doesn't come up very often. I think I've always talked about this very honestly. I do realize that there are people out there in the world who I have ticked off, or my guests have ticked off, and there are those people who are ticked off might just take that out on me. That's the way this all works. And of course, if you're a reporter and you're covering crime, you're covering certain types of stories where there are bad actors, maybe going back to like the 70s and 80s in New York City, reporters covering mafia crime and everything. There's always the chance you're the front center on the camera, in front of the microphone, talking about these people. You just never know what can happen. And so it's something that I needed to talk about. If I had not included that in the show last Thursday night. I think that would have been a big empty space there. That when you're covering disappearances, and there are reasons to believe like 60 to 65% of them are murders, and people, for the most part, have gotten away with them, and they're walking around free men and women, and the guests are calling them out by name, and I'm going along with it. You have to be wary of that. And I am. And I've talked about the precautions that I take when I go out and things. So, but it is something that is on my mind. So now going back to the scenario that I painted, that I described back on Thursday night, not sure how likely that would be. If I'm out with other people and somebody could come along to do that, I don't know. But it's something I thought, it's something that has gone through my mind, and I thought that everybody would want to hear about that. So, but you should know, though, I described the trick-or-treating over in my brother's area pretty accurately. And what I mean by that is when Brian came over to Orlando on Friday, he did tell us that they had 300 trick-or-treaters at his house. He and his wife, Laureen, had like 300 trick-or-treaters, and that's a low number. I'm going to guess trick-or-treating might have been down a little bit given everything that's going on in this county over the last month. But it's not unusual for them to get 500 trick-or-treaters in that area. So when I said it's a very popular trick-or-treating area in Pinellas County, that is no lie. And I can tell you, if I'd not been over seeing my sister and Charlie and Jim on Thursday night, I probably would have been over at my brother's, kind of just sitting there and watching the trick-or-treaters go by and get candy and everything. It's always fascinating to me. So there you go. That was the Dr. T show. Now, less than 2 weeks from now, I'm going to be on the show again. And she and I are going to go over, she wanted to do a solved disappearance. It's her show. And so we are going to go over the disappearance of Bo Man. I, of course, haven't put together the notes on that yet. Of course, we'll stick to the major points. That episode was pretty long going. I think it was a 2-hour episode or whatever it was when his mother, of course, came on. We all know that Bo was eventually found not too long after that episode came out. We're going to go over his disappearance. Bowman's disappearance did get at least a bit of national attention, especially after it was solved. And there are, I think, still questions in maybe his family's mind and his friends' minds about, did he really know that woman that lived at that address? Did they know each other? Didn't they know each other? How did he end up, his body end up where it was, not too far away? People seemingly saw it, but didn't do anything about it. I'm going to try to hit all of those points next Thursday night. Same Dr. T time, same Dr. T channel, 7 p.m. Eastern on the Fischler College of Education and School of Criminal Justice YouTube channel. Amy and I were there, watching. Okay, you watched the Dr. T show. I really appreciate that a lot. Hazel, appreciate it. Precisely. Sure, you had about 100 trick-or-treaters. Is that a lot for your area? Is that less or more than usual? I mean, even 100 sounds like a lot to me. So when I hear 300 over at my brother Brian's or 500 like it has been, I mean, that's just crazy. And we know it because, Laureen, his wife, knows how much candy she's bought. And you know how much candy is in a bag, and you know how many bags you go through. It's easy to figure out how many trick-or-treaters you had. It's, you don't have to stick there with a little clicker or anything. So, quite a few. I mean, I know you can't even guess how much candy Laureen has handed out in that neighborhood. And I don't know how long has she lived in that neighborhood, 30 years or something. I can't even imagine maybe over that, how much candy she's handed out every Halloween. If you add it all up, I can't imagine it. So moving on, tomorrow I am making an appearance at Texas A&M University through Zoom. Unfortunately, none of you will get to watch it, although it might be made, accessible to the public at some point. I'm just going to be zoomed into a classroom at Texas A&M. And this is something I did last semester, same class, but of course, same class, new students. And this is something that my assistant Eric originally set up earlier this year. And I really, really thank him for that. I will not be talking about disappearances or true crime, though. I'll be talking about podcasting and journalism and media. And it is a coincidence that I'll be doing that on election day, at least here in the United States. So that'll be tomorrow. It's 1:45 Eastern time. Probably go for about an hour or something like that. Really looking forward to that. I talk so much about disappearances and true crime and everything. Don't really get to talk too much about the business and the hobby or whatever people do, amateur or professional, of podcasting, and just my attitude toward reporting and media in general. I've gotten into that a little bit on this live show. By now, I have the lowest of opinions of reporting, the media community of the United States. Pick one: politics, sports, entertainment, weather. I've been doing this for 8 years. I am a reporter. The podcasting is the medium, but really, you talk about general professions. I'm a reporter. I'm a journalist. That's what I do. I find people who know stuff and I ask questions. That's what I do. And so doing this for 8 years, I think I'm in a position now to really be in a position to look at my own profession and be critical of it. I'm not somebody, just some layperson who, is criticizing the media, even though the person has never been in media. I am in media and in reporting, and I have a lot of complaints. I love what I do. Don't get me wrong. But I certainly do not love the way a lot of other people go about their business of reporting. And like I said, I think I'm in a position to be able to judge them because I'm doing what they're doing, but reporting on something different. But it shouldn't matter. In my mind, it shouldn't matter. So we'll touch upon that at least a little bit tomorrow with these journalism students at Texas A&M University. So let's get to some of the topics that are the headlines for this live show tonight. And of course, I have to start with Jodi Huisentruit's some new news. It's weird how the English language is, right? New news. Here, most recently, just within the last week, regarding a tip that came in about her disappearance and what's being done about it. I just want to see what everybody's saying. Hazel says 500. I'd be going out on that night for sure. Okay, Hazel. Lisa, hello, Lisa. Greetings from Arrowhead, home of the Chiefs. Miss you also, Marty, on Wheel of Fortune, and now I was just on the Jumbotron. Wow, all of these Unfound listeners getting big time attention. Even I'm jealous. Lisa, you'll have to tell us. Of course, I don't have a TV on here. What is the score? What is going on with the score? When I was watching it when I turned it off. The Buccaneers were actually up 7-3. So, Lisa, do you want to give us all a scoring update? And Shri and Hazel are saying hi to Lisa. All right, Jodi Huisentruit. I'm going to read this story. Mason City, Iowa investigators search area in Winstead, Minnesota. Yep, not in Iowa, but in Minnesota on a Huisentruit tip. And I should have darkened this up a little bit. Hold on one second. This print is so light. Hold on a second. All right. All right. That's better. See what I do if you don't know. When I find these articles, I just go through and copy and paste. I copy the text and then bring it over into a Word document. And sometimes, it's a website, so they can pick whatever color font they want. And sometimes the font doesn't come out too well. Marty says, my Bengals are hot and cold this season. It's crazy. Yeah, Marty, they won't be beating the Steelers this year. So you can just relax on that. Investigators from Mason City, Iowa recently searched an area in Winstead, Minnesota on a possible lead connected to the search for missing Iowa news anchor Jodi Huisentruit, abducted on the early morning of June 27th of 1995. Acting on a tip, the Iowa investigators conducted the search 2 weeks ago in a rural city northwest of the Twin Cities. Mason City Police Chief Jeff Brinkley confirmed the purpose of the search in a brief statement to findjodi.com. Mason City Police Department recently worked with Minnesota law enforcement officials to follow up on a lead in Winstead. MCPD continued to receive, evaluate, and follow up on information it receives related to Jodi Huisentrut's disappearance on a regular basis. Information gleaned from this effort will be used in the ongoing investigation. At this time, there's no additional information for public release. We do want to encourage anyone with information about Jodi's disappearance to contact MCPD or the Iowa Division of Criminal Investigation. The chief declined to share specifics about the tip or its status in the overall Huisentruit investigation. The heavy Iowa and Minnesota police presence last month in an area by an apartment construction site caught the attention of Winstead residents who live in the community, which has a population of only about 2,000. It prompted a tipster to reach out to find Jodi, who wondered if there might be a connection to Winstead in Jodi's abduction. The local newspaper also did a story on the search, but did not mention it was related to Jodi's case. The Herald Journal reported local authorities in Winstead confirmed Monday that they assisted an out-of-state law enforcement agency from Iowa on an ongoing investigation. The investigation is focused on the land and surrounding area of the new apartment complex construction site at Grass Lake Farms, 3rd edition. Journalist Andrew Maluners, probably butchered his name. I apologize, Andrew. Reported Winstead Police Chief of Police Justin Helt confirmed that the local police department provided assistance to the Iowa Law Enforcement Agency. However, due to the ongoing nature of the investigation, Helt was unable to provide any further details. In response to an email from Find Jodi co-founder Josh Benson, Chief Helt said his Winstead department is not investigating the case you mentioned. Winstead is about 3-hour drive from Mason City and 104 miles from Long Prairie, Minnesota, where Jodi grew up. For Jodi's family, friends, and former KIMT colleagues, reports on new tips and searches are part of the emotional roller coaster journey they have been on for almost 30 years. Jodi's sister, Joanne, said she was unaware of the latest development when Find Jodi reached out to her. Joanne also said she's grateful to hear Mason County Police are following up on leads like the one in Winstead. They need to follow up on everything. It will be 30 years in June of 2025 since Jodi was abducted, getting into her car in her apartment parking lot. She was on her way to anchor the morning news at KIMT TV. Anyone with information about Jodi's unsolved case is asked to contact the Mason City Police Department at 641-421-3636, or information can be shared with Iowa DCI Special Agent Ryan Herman, rherman@dps.state.ia.us, and you can contact findjodi.com. hot and cold. This is crazy. Hazel tells, Hazel tells Marty to see a doctor. Yeah, if you're a Bengals fan, you should go see a doctor. That is true. And Sherry is laughing. All right. So what to think about all of this? And some of you know, Jodi Huisentruit's disappearance has been one that has fascinated me, got my attention. I've known about it since basically the internet came to Gilpin Township in about 1996. I'd known about it. Of course, it happened in 95. I guess it was maybe I found out about it through Unsolved Mysteries or something. But it was one of those that when I found out about it, the internet had just started. Of course, web sleuths, I don't even think existed yet. And it just really caught my attention for some reason. And then findjodi.com came along, and I was one of the first people to be a subscriber on there. And it's like old, like, early 2000s website building format. I was there. And of course, now it was, as I've stated a couple times, it was something for me to know about her disappearance for all that time, and then to have a podcast eventually where her disappearance is featured, and then to know Caroline Lowe, who was one of the main people at findjodi.com. It's just, I don't know. You see it, these things from so far away, like 96, 97, 98, 99. And then all those years later, you're right there. Of course, I've never been to Mason City, but I'm right there in the middle of it, interviewing Caroline. It must be like the astronauts when they come back from space. The Earth is way down or over there. And then their re-entry back into the atmosphere, and everything gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then all of a sudden you're on the ground. So not too long ago, you were like 100,000 miles away or whatever it is. And then boom, you're on the ground. It's kind of like it's the best way I can explain it. I haven't had a chance to talk to Caroline about this, honestly, but it is, she is originally from Minnesota. That's where Caroline was a reporter all those years. And I'm wondering what she thinks about this Minnesota tip. I have to admit, we have to believe that Jodi is deceased. Very sadly. Although I will tell you, I don't think that happened immediately, given the way this disappearance was constructed. But I would be stunned if her remains are found that far away. I would be stunned. As you know, I know some people out there still do believe that John Van Cise, killed her. Fine by me. I don't particularly believe that, but I don't argue with people about theories. I'm more along the lines that it was somebody who was obsessed with her, most likely due to her work. And so that somebody who's obsessed with her would, did her coverage reach to Minnesota? I don't know. It just seems to me that this crime would be something that's much more local. And I just can't see. Now, it very well may be that it's something totally different. Maybe they have a reason to believe that whoever did something to Jodi did something to some other woman. And there was a crime or a murder committed in Minnesota that could be connected. Maybe that's what this is all about. Very possible. But at no time have I ever thought that she was going to be found outside of Minnesota or outside of Iowa. The tough thing about this is you have to understand something. Even though I think findjodi.com and many people in the public have tried to feature her disappearance pretty well. The Mesa City Police Department has not been the most forthcoming regarding all of this. And FOIAs have been found, and they still have kept the information to themselves. There are still many things about Jodi's disappearance, at least regarding the investigation, that we don't know about. I think that's maybe has gotten lost. I think it might have come up when I interviewed Caroline, some years ago now, regarding the police information, but they're not giving it out. Even though this disappearance is over 29 years old, you do a FOIA for Jodi's disappearance, anybody does it, and you're not going to get anything. And so it could be anything. They could have been up there for almost any reason. So we just have to keep that in mind. That this is not like, for example, going back to like the disappearance of Jennifer Perry. When I filed a FOIA for her disappearance down there in Marathon, which is Collier County, I got like 250 pages. Or it was even more than that. Now, some of them were duplicates, but still. You do that for Jodi's disappearance, you're not going to get anything. We also have to keep in mind that tips like this, we don't know anything about the tip. We don't know how it came in. We don't know where it came from. It could have been from a psychic. I mean, what are we talking about here? So we just have to keep that all in mind. Like I said, I will just be stunned if this is resolved someday and her remains are found anywhere outside of Iowa. That's where I am on it. Like I said, because of what's been going on and where I've been over the last several days, I've not had a chance to talk to Caroline about this, but I hope to see if she has any inside baseball, inside information on it. And maybe it might help that she's originally from Minnesota and she has some contacts there. Because like it said in the article, like it's a new apartment complex. So what are they saying? It's just hard to tell. It's one of those things, as I do like with the Unfound Nows. Of course, Unfound Now, the most recent one came out last week, where I do my best to try to read between the lines. It's a little hard to read between the lines for this. So I'm going to get a drink of water here while I'm sitting here. Hold on. I'm feeling a little parched for some reason. And maybe it's because the humidity is down here. Usually Florida is known as being this humid place. Well, I have a humidity detector in my place. My dad sent it to me. And the humidity in this condo is only like 35%. That's not as dry as Las Vegas. But, Florida is usually a lot wetter than that. So I think that's probably why I'm feeling the effects of it a little bit tonight. So that is the disappearance of Jodi Huisentruit. Not sure what to make of it. If I talk to Caroline and she wants to, reveal anything that she knows, anything that could be helpful, and I'm allowed to talk about it publicly, then I'll do that. I just have not had an opportunity to do that. All right, moving on. We're going to move on to the Delphi trial, and I'm glad Cherie is in here if I get anything wrong. Let me read this. Defense attorneys in Richard Allen's murder trial in Delphi continue making their case Monday at the Carroll County Courthouse. That's today. Allen, 52, is accused of killing two teens who went missing February 13th of 2017. Can you believe it's almost been 8 years now? And were found dead the next day. He was arrested in 2022 and faces 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of murder while kidnapping in the deaths of Abigail Abby Williams and Liberty Libby German. On Saturday, jurors watched silent camcorder footage of Richard Allen during his time at the Westville Correctional Facility. As they watched, the screen was turned away from members of the public and the media. His attorney said they wished to hide the videos out of respect for Allen's dignity, and Special Judge Francis Gall agreed. Jury members seemed visibly unsettled by the footage. Journalists from the Indianapolis Star and the Lafayette Journal and Courier continue to cover the case as it moves through the judicial system. Neuropsychologist who tested Richard Allen says he did not fake psychotic behavior. Dr. Polly Westcott, a Carmel-based neuropsychologist, testified Monday that Allen did not fake or exaggerate his bizarre behavior while he was at Westville Correctional Facility. Instead, Westcott told jurors prolonged isolation and lack of meaningful contact with his wife exacerbated his mental illness. Allen arrived at Westville Correctional Facility with depression and anxiety. He also had a dependent personality disorder and mental health condition that involves an excessive need to be taken care of by others. Westcott said that after months of solitary confinement and distance from his wife, to whom he is most dependent, his depression became much more pronounced and escalated to psychosis. Westcott said she watched all the videos of Allen in prison, listened to his talks from prison, met separately with him and his wife, and reviewed notes from suicide logs. She also said the tests she conducted on Allen showed he was not faking symptoms, contradicting testimony by Dr. Monica Walla, Allen's therapist at Westville. Walla testified earlier about Allen's history with depression and anxiety. She too said he showed signs of dependent personality disorder, but she also testified she believes Allen was feigning or faking his bizarre behavior. This included eating his feces and flushing a Bible down the toilet. That's disgusting. The defense noted during Westcott's testimony that she, unlike Walla, conducted objective testing on Allen. During cross-examination last week by defense attorney Bradley Rossi, Walla acknowledged that she followed Allen's case with interest during her personal time, even as she was treating him, a fact she mentioned to her supervisors. But Walla, a true crime fan, also said she followed other cases and she was able to separate her personal curiosity from her treatment of Allen. Westcott was called not just to contradict Walla's testimony, but to also establish that the dozens of confessions from Allen were made while in the midst of a mental health crisis. Allen made more than 60 incriminating statements to Walla, to the warden, to inmates and guards who were assigned to monitor him while he was on suicide watch, and in several calls with his wife and mother. During cross-examination, Stacy Diner asked if Allen's dependent personality syndrome could cause him to transfer his attachment to someone else if his wife isn't around. Diner noted that at some point Allen pleaded with Walla to not leave him and told her, "You are like my wife." Westcott said this does not mean Allen had transferred his attachment to Walla, although he did see her as a confidant. Westcott also said that what someone sees while they're suffering from psychosis is not consistent with the world around them, although she acknowledged they could still make accurate statements. So this is what Cherie was telling me about regarding when we text back and forth, Cherie and I. This is what Cherie was telling me about. Sarah says, I guess you're talking about Jodi. I learned about the case from Unsolved Mysteries. Mary says, "Hey, Marty, I feel like our Ravens are as well. My fiance is a huge Broncos fan, and he was not happy last night." Sarah says she agrees with my theory regarding Jodi. Suzanne's reminding everybody to hit the thumbs up button. Yeah, hit that thumbs up button. And missing Christopher Douthit. Oh, good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Well, I hope you're doing well. So that is the actual channel checking in. So I have to believe Is that Mary? Mary, is that you? From the Missing Christopher Douthit channel. Is that Mary, who was the guest and is Christopher's mother? Okay. But I think what's interesting to me, I didn't pull those, didn't copy those articles, but we should recognize that the girls were slashed. They were not shot. I know that's been made a lot of. You know, there was this, I guess, a bullet casing that was nearby. They were not shot. They were slashed. I didn't know that. As I also learned from Cherie that this guy confessed to killing his grandchildren, even though they are still alive. And he's taking credit for things he didn't do. Imagine that. Maybe kind of reminded me of Steve Pankey. And what I also found out, because there is this other guy. There's this other guy, Ron Logan, who 15 people originally named him as the most likely suspect for their murders. I don't know. Once again, I'm not an expert on this. I know many of you, including Assistant Cherie, has followed this more closely than I have. But this sounds like reasonable doubt to me. At this point, I'm getting feelings of the first Steve Pankey trial all over again, to tell you the truth. Why am I feeling a little, I don't know. Feeling a little out of it tonight. Didn't it last night too? I don't know what's going on here. So I'm going to try to get through this. And then the defense was still trying to get the cult theory into the trial. I also read that as well. I thought that was something that was long gone. Cherie says, "Oh, so I'm not the only one who had that come to mind." I see, Cherie. Reminds me of Steve Pankey as well, oddly. Missing Mary says, "I'm doing well as I can, friend." Yes, it's Mary's anniversary just passed, and it's killing me. Yeah, I'm sure, Mary. Mary says, "I don't feel really totally comfortable or solid about the case. The bridge guy definitely looks like Alan to me. Ron Logan is taller," Kathy says. All right, so we have some differing opinions in the chat tonight. You know, I think the problem they have here, RA is bridge guy, in my opinion. So the guy who is on trial, Amy says she believes is the person who should be on trial, and it shouldn't be this Ron Logan guy. All right. You know, the question is this guy crazy, or is he crazy like a fox? You know, that's something we have to really wonder about. When he knows, he has to know that everything's being recorded. It's all on video. He knows that it can be entered at trial. And I guess that's why they are thinking that, well, he's trying to, you know, crazy defense, you know, psycho defense. Doesn't know what he's doing, lost his mind, and very well may be. It's just so hard to tell. And it doesn't help, I think, for the prosecution that, you know, how many different guys were questioned and brought in and charged, then let go. That doesn't help. Of course, I don't know if that is allowed into this trial or not. Does the jury get to hear that? I have no idea. Probably not. You know, it could cut both ways, though, right? If he's acting crazy, then how do we know he wasn't crazy on the day that he killed the girls? And maybe that's his defense. I don't know if any's, if he is the guy who they caught on the video and was recorded, he doesn't sound crazy to them. He sounds pretty calm and everything, at least at that point. Don't know. But that's what's going on. The defense has started. We got the battle. The battling of the experts. Expert testimony. Yeah, one guy. Yeah, he's totally telling, he's totally crazy. And the other one saying, no, he's making stuff up. He's doing it on purpose. I'm so happy that I've never been on a jury having to, decide that. I'm really, really happy about that. Or did they make him crazy? It's possible. Sure, certainly possible. It's something that cannot be ruled out here. People do go crazy while they're in prison. People, there's a reason that one of the worst punishments in jail is solitary confinement. The worst punishment isn't putting you around more people. The worst punishment is putting you around less people. So there's something to that. But these guys are crafty. We know these people. They're crafty. Mary says, oh, wow, yes, Panky, I can see that. The bridge guy does look like all right, but still I feel like doubt is there, and that's not good. Well, depends who you're rooting for, Mary, I guess. It takes a lot to convince me I'm a skeptic. That's all right. You're allowed to be that way, Kathy. There's a lot of doubt here. The jury's going to have a, tough thing to figure out. Would this guy really claim to have killed those girls and not done it? Would he have really done that? Of course, we all know John Mark Carr. He claimed to have killed John Benet Ramsey until they found out that he wasn't even in the United States at the time. So I just don't know, but it doesn't sound like John Mark Carr is like this guy. So Cherry says, I wish the trial was televised. Be on court TV. Sheree, I'm guessing that they really, 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 really wanted to do that, but couldn't get it done. Wasn't allowed. Don't know. But you would think the producers at Court TV would have loved to have been able to film it. I'm guessing they weren't allowed. Exactly, Sheree. Judge Gull is living in the 1800s. Amy, I'd be interested to know why you say that. Is living in the 1800s. What did, because the judge wouldn't allow cameras in the courtroom. Okay. Everybody has the reasons. Regarding the Steve Panky trial, I think they allowed him in for the first day. And when Panky was on the stand, I mean, you've seen some of the footage. There were cameras in the classroom, in the trial, in the jury, in the courtroom, but they weren't in there when I was on the stand. I think there was just select times, and of course, except I think a little part of the Panky trial did end up on Court TV, but it wasn't, just a little part. And if you saw the documentary that came out in August, then you saw that there are clips from the trial, but it wasn't like we usually understand it. Oh, the stories defense attorneys can come up with it. Isn't that true? It's defense attorneys would be great novelists, right, Kathy? Yes. Sorry if that was no, Amy, not disrespectful. No, absolutely not. I just didn't know what you meant. You're allowed to say that. Now kind of backward, kind of, wouldn't it be better if everything was open to everybody? I don't have a firm opinion on that either way, Amy. There's certainly pluses and minuses. It's certainly public record, but that's what trial transcripts are for. The problem is you get a camera in a courtroom and suddenly everybody, I think, has to feel like they're a character. That's certainly, in my opinion, once again, going way, 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 way back to 30 years ago, my opinion is that the OJ trial does not go that way if TVs or cameras aren't allowed in the courtroom. I'm not going to go as far as to say that OJ is convicted for surely the killing of his ex-wife and Ron Goldman. But I once again, in retrospect, was it obvious in the moment? Don't know, because at that point in the mid-90s, we really maybe didn't understand reality TV. Reality TV started just a few years after that. But when you start putting, let's just say, regular people in front of camera doing the jobs that they do, I don't know if that's good for the justice system. Like I said, I don't have a firm opinion one way or the other. But Chris Darden and Marcia Clark and Judge Ito and all of it just became such a spectacle. And I just don't think it goes that way if the cameras aren't there. If anybody has a different opinion on that, I'm willing to be open to it. But just So when we talk about this trial and the cameras being there or not being there, maybe it's good, maybe it's bad. Sure, I think the judge didn't want to create a spectacle out of the murder of two children, which I respect, but it does not make the public wonder. It does make the public wonder whether there is doubt. When there is doubt. Yeah. Don't know. Like I said, no strong opinion, except to say that if you're going to do that, then the people involved, the major players, the prosecution, the defense, the judges, whoever, the people, the main people, they have to keep their egos in check. They don't, once again, we all love our attention. We all love it. We all have egos, and we're trying to be the stars of our own lives and be the main characters of our own lives and the movie that we create every day when we get up in the morning, the movie that is our life. And just think that I just don't know if the human ego can handle it for something as serious as that, I think is what I'm saying. I'm open, once again, I have no necessarily firm opinion. I'm sure there's some good reasons too, especially if it is public interest. Maybe I might say, well, they could play it locally in that area. People are, are so concerned. Do they have the right killer? Is the killer still out there who might kill other girls? That's all good questions. Does the nation of the United States need to see it? Don't know. Now, with O.J. Simpson, being that he was an international figure, of course, not just in football, but in the movies and everything, commercials and everything that he was in, then if you're going to put it on, then everybody, I guess, has to see it because he's an international star. But for something like this, maybe just keep it local. Suzanne says this guy Allen is guilty. So Suzanne is not buying the crazy story, Kathy. The evidence against OJ was overwhelming. Should have been a slam dunk. but he was a celebrity. Yeah, you wonder what those jurors did with their lives, have done with their lives since that time. I think we do know who some of the jurors were. That some of them wrote books and things, right? I wonder what they've all done with their lives since then. Have any of them ever been questioned recently? Do they still think that OJ was not guilty, that the prosecution didn't prove its case? I wonder. Cherie, if someone can give me some evidence other than that jailhouse confession, I would love to hear it. Yeah. Kathy agrees with Suzanne, is saying that the guy who is on trial is guilty. All right. So that's the Delphi trial. We're into the defense side of it. Seems to be questions. Feels like Steve Pankey trial number one to me. But Steve Pankey trial number 2 felt like number 1 to me, and we know that went a different direction. So there's that. And by the way, I've not received any Steve Pankey letters since last Monday. Moving on. This is amazing. This is truly something that I did not see coming. And it has to do, remember the woman who dressed up as a clown and ended up killing her, a woman who answered her front door? This is that story. I'm going to read it to you. A follow-up. Not clowning around. A 1990 killer clown cold case turned plea deal has come to a close at the Florida woman who pled guilty was released from prison on Saturday. Sheila Keene Warren, 61, was released from prison just 18 months following her guilty plea to the second-degree murder of Marlene Warren while dressed as a clown delivering carnations and balloons. Keene Warren was arrested in 2017 and later convicted of shooting Marlene to death more than 30 years ago in Wellington, Florida. She was sentenced to 12 years in prison in 2023 with credit for the 2,000-plus days she had already spent behind bars. Despite her plea deal, she has maintained her innocence. We are absolutely thrilled that Ms. Keene Warren has been released from prison and is returning to her family. So they are letting her out of jail. As we stated from the beginning, she did not commit this crime. She had been a suspect from the beginning of the case, but investigators' lack of evidence made it hard for prosecutors to charge her. That's my phone ringing. If you can hear it, that's probably my dad calling me. Retested DNA evidence in 2014 allowed them to connect her to the crime scene. The victim's son, Joseph Aarons, and friends were home at the time of the shooting and claim a person dressed as a clown delivered the balloons and flowers before shooting Marlene in the face. Keene Warren went on to marry the husband of her victim, Michael Warren, whom she worked for. Witnesses believed that the two were having an affair at the time of Marlene's murder, although they both denied it. So seemingly this woman, it seems, I mean, the theory is that she killed this woman to get her out of the way so Keene Warren could eventually marry Michael herself. Although once again, if you remember going back to this, all of us were trying to figure out, could somebody really plan that so many years in advance? Remember, whenever year this happened, it was a few years before she and Michael seemingly ever became a couple. Now, of course, like I said, the allegations are maybe they're having an affair. Well, they ended up not getting married till several years later. So of course, I believe that Keene Warren killed her. It's just, was this really all part of the plan? Hers, because somebody really, I guess she might have figured I have nothing to lose. I don't know if I'm going to be able to marry Michael after I kill his wife, but I'm going to give it a shot anyway. So maybe that is what was going on. But there's no way that she should be getting let out of jail. This is something that was calculated. This was planned. This was done right in front of kids. In fact, I mean, what if they had opened the door? Was she shot them too? And she, shows no remorse, no admission of guilt, and they are letting her out of jail. The world just got to be a more dangerous place. And watch out if she starts obsessing on some new guy. Watch out for the woman that's in that guy's life. Watch out. Watch out, watch out, watch out. But we've seen this. The thing is that we have to understand something. This isn't new. I know when it comes to, it's kind of a political hot topic. Look at these certain prosecutors in certain areas of the country letting these killers out, and they go to kill again. And of course, it's portrayed as some type of new thing in the United States. It's not. It's been going on forever. I'm not saying it's right, but when they try to portray it as, well, we don't do this in the United States. This is new. This is because of politics. I mean, this has been going on forever. People being let out of jail who probably should not be let out of jail, that they then go on to kill again. Is this what Keen warned this woman is going to do? Her first name being Sheila. I don't know, but I think everybody is better off if she's still in jail. And let me go back here. So Mary says, and there it is, Sherry. That's it for me also. Seems like they just keep bringing up the jailhouse confession, going back to the Delphi murders. That is not enough. And Lita Sullivan. Oh, no, the other clown. Yes. I don't know who that Lita Sullivan is. The name does not ring a bell, MW. Yeah, this is the other one. Seems like she just went to jail. She did. Well, I guess she was in jail for like 2,000 days or something, I guess, being held for trial. And that then goes toward her sentence. Sherry, I guess. And Amy agrees with me. Agreeing with me is always a good choice, Amy. So watch out there. Of course, I guess I'm the one that has to watch out, given that she's from Florida. Although I think when they finally charged her and brought her in, I don't think that she was in Florida anymore. So I'm a little unclear on that. I think that she was actually somewhere else. Don't know. But she's out. It has to be one of the more shocking stories that I've seen recently. And certainly when we spent some time, more than once, if you'll remember, anybody who's been around long enough, more than once I had, covered that story. And of course, for many years, it was unsolved. And I don't think I could have ever guessed that she would be getting out of jail. Maybe somewhere way down the road, but not so soon. I don't know. All right. So watch out, guys and women out there who run into her, who may run into her. Watch out. Watch your back. And, if you see another clown show up at your front door, do not answer the door. All right. Moving on. This is something that has not been, we haven't talked about this death in a while, but we have to talk about Tom Brown tonight. If you'll remember, Phil Klein and others were suing that radio host at that radio station, along with that guest that host had on the show. Remember all that? And I know most of you are very, very familiar with everything that has gone on over the last several years. the words back and forth and everything else, and the allegations that have been made, and on and on and on and on. But Phil Klein and Penny and the family had sued the radio station host, that particular guest, and others for defamation. And a court in Texas decided, yeah, that's not going to happen. I'm not surprised at all. This is one of those things that, given that some years ago, I mean, it's been like 5 years now, but I did go talk to a lawyer back then about I got an hour of his time that I paid for, and specializing in defamation. And we sat down and talked for an hour about that very topic, the ins and outs of it, and what it takes, and what's a good case versus a bad case. And it was very interesting because the lawyer himself at one time had been slandered or something, and before he was even a lawyer, it took that person to court and won. So, but that's rare. Defamation cases are rarely won, but this guy seemingly was successful in doing that, although maybe he was just telling me a story. I don't know, but I found the talk that I had with him to be very helpful to me in guiding Unfound. Of course, at that point, Unfound was 3 years old. And since then, the last 5 years, that conversation is still in my mind. And I try to guide the interviews and the episodes accordingly. It's one of those things where if you're going to get into this, and for Phil Klein, if you're going to be a person who wants to do a live show regarding the investigation that you're doing, and, you know, doing all these interviews and getting up in front of a microphone, and the most dangerous place in the earth is between, you know, Phil Klein and a camera or whatever else, you have to accept that people are going to say things about you. And some of those things are going to be somewhat outrageous. But now on the other hand, I don't have much sympathy for Phil Klein. Certainly have sympathy for Penny and her family. Certainly. But still, it just did not rise, because if you don't know, maybe I need to go through this. Lying is legal in the United States. You have to remember that lying is legal. Now, certain lies could get you in trouble, but let's make clear that in the United States, lying is legal. So that's where you have to start from when it comes to defamation. And even if you were to prove that something was a liar, that's not enough. Because we have free speech. Now, I'm only talking about the United States. Hazel, you down in New Zealand, people who are in other countries, who tune in and everything else, surely your laws and ideas about defamation and slander, libel, whatever else, is much different than we have in the United States. Because unlike all these other countries in our Bill of Rights, at least at the federal level, that we have a freedom of speech, that means you're allowed to lie. Now, do we have laws on the books that, if you lie to a police officer during investigations? Yes. But when it comes to running a radio show or appearing on a radio show or running a podcast, you're allowed to lie. Now, I think it's a bad idea. I don't think it's very ethical. could say crazy things and everything. Crazy things are allowed to be said in the United States. I don't think it's, like I said, that's not what I do. And I think it's one of those, once again, one of those problems that I have about media in the United States. But there's nothing illegal about it. Don't get me wrong. What that radio host did with that guest over the course of I don't even know how many shows, and all the ideas that they threw around on a radio show that can be accessed and heard by people in Canadian Texas is beyond me. It must have been sweeps week, or it must have been ratings week or something. But what they did was not illegal. And I never thought so. It's just unprofessional and done for effect. Here's what I think I know. That radio show host at that radio station doesn't have that guest on there. If the guest comes on and wants to just say, you know what, I think Tom died out there due to the elements. Tom died out there due to a suicide. Tom died out there, for something that's not sensational. Let's just admit it. The only reason that guest was on there is because that guest had a particular point of view that was on the fringes. And that's what I hate about American media. Okay? That's what I hate about American media in all of it. You want to get on a radio show, unfortunately, you want to get on many podcasts, once again, of all genres, entertainment, sports, politics, whatever else. You want to get on one of those, the easiest way to get on one of those is just to come up with the craziest idea ever. And of course, what they were talking about was the idea, one of many ideas they threw around that Tom actually got home that night and something happened at the home and on and on and on. So like I said, this defamation, I just didn't see it going anywhere. It's just, even though it's outrageous, that doesn't make it illegal. And as I said before, even if you prove that it was a lie, you then have to prove that it has damaged you in some way that is tangible. Meaning, you just can't say, well, they're lying about me and my feelings are hurt. That doesn't fly in the United States. It might fly in some other country, but that doesn't fly in the United States. This is, what do we talk about? Being little delicate flowers and people don't like themselves being talked about and everything else. This is what we do here in the United States. So even if you prove it a lie, that's not enough. You have to first be able to show that it has damaged you in some monetary way. Meaning, did you lose your job because of it? Did your husband divorce you because of it? Did you get turned down from a promotion at your job because of it? Did you lose it? If you're, let's say that you're some financial advisor, did you lose clients because of it? And the thing is, you have to prove that. You just can't say that these things happened. You have to show it. And you have to show that there's a direct relationship between losing something tangible and what was said about you. It's a very, very high hurdle. That's a high hurdle just in itself. But on top of that, if that's not a high enough hurdle, the next one on top of that is you have to show that these people did it on purpose and that it was malicious. They did it in a way that was actually trying to damage you in that tangible way. This is the reason, at least in the United States, that we don't have many defamation trials. And when we do, we have them for very, very famous people. And, the stories are, so outrageous. And of course, the celebrity has a very powerful lawyer and everything else. And even in the end, that really doesn't stop any, the money, for example, the National Enquirer maybe is this thing that, is the one that comes to mind, from my, my life, or, the Globe, or any of these, entertainment rags that have something, about some famous person. And these places get sued and these places lose because the standards are met. But you have to understand something. This is these rags business. The money that they know, the money that they're going to have to pay out in some lawsuit is less than the money they're going to make from publishing the story in the first place. The more sensational the story, the more the likely the person in the checkout counter line is going to buy it. Nobody buys, unfortunately, the way we are, at least here in the United States. And I think, once again, this is why media has gotten so crazy here. Nobody's going to go through the checkout line and read one, buy something like that says about how a power, star-studded couple is getting along so well. That's just who we are as humans. There are reasons that when it comes to a lot of these reality shows that they're so dramatic. Nobody wants to watch something where people are just going to get along all the time. They need to create drama, the ups and downs and sideways, and they will manufacture it if they have to. I mean, look at any reality show, whether it has to do with the Kardashians or even the remodeling of a house and everything else. Look how much drama is infused into it. And you start to wonder, are these really things really happen? Probably not. Doesn't matter. People want to watch it. They love the drama. They love the moment right before the commercial. That's what keeps people coming back. It's horrible. I wish people weren't like this, but we are. I don't know if I'm like this. I don't watch any of that stuff, but down in our, our genetics somewhere, we are like this. But can we resist that urge? So getting back to Tom Brown, like I said, the reason that guest was on that radio station with that radio host is because that guy had some things he wanted to say that came totally out of left field. And for me, once again, being that I've been doing this 8 years, I really only listened to, I think, one of those, not even live. Probably I found it afterwards that one of you sent me something or something. I could tell right away this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. It's just not that he doesn't know what he's talking about regarding Tom Brown's death. He's just not somebody who should be taken seriously regarding investigations, period. And in that way, I do see him, and Phil Klein is kind of in the same vein. That's me. And once again, I've been doing this 8 years now. When Tom Brown's disappearance came out, I hadn't even been doing this 2 years. In fact, Tom Brown's disappearance was probably around let me think about that. It wasn't not even close to number 100 disappearance. Maybe number 70, number 80. We're on 350 now. A person like that, no matter if they were saying outrageous things or not, could not make it on this podcast because I would know the person doesn't know what he's talking about. No matter what he said, even if the guy had the most normal theory ever, I could tell right away, the person doesn't know disappearances. You're just not gonna be on here. Now, of course, with families, we give them a lot of leeway. They're amateurs. But for people who claim to be investigators, professionals, and everything else, I got no time. I got no time. I pride myself in finding really good people to talk to. Good, high quality people that aren't going to be sensational and everything. So I knew this was going to go nowhere. I understand the defamation laws in the United States because I live with them every day. I'm in the information business, so I have to understand that. And I think this happened a while ago, but there was a public statement that this came out, and I had to go to Phil Klein's Facebook page to find this. And this happened some weeks ago that I missed. So I'll just read it now. Many have called us or emailed us regarding the Tom Brown case in Canadian Texas. The case is processing, and we know that frustrates some of you. We are being quiet about our investigation as there's no doubt it will come to a prosecution someday. Canadian Texas can never heal and begin to move forward until that day comes. Thus, again, you know who you are. Do the right thing and come forward. We believe your government and some of the officials lied to you, the public. We believe there was a cover-up. We believe that the events of that night were misrepresented. We firmly, capital letters, believe that Thomas Brown never committed suicide, and that is the easy way out for some in law enforcement. In our 40 years of being in the investigation missing persons operations, we have never ever seen anything so sick and misguided as we have seen over the past year by our government. For those of you who know, it's time for us to be honest. We believe your town cannot heal until you tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So help you God. I don't know what any of that means. The statement that catches my attention is what missing. It says in our 40 years of being in the investigation missing persons operations. I know that we've talked about this before, although it hasn't been recently. It must be a couple years. What missing persons cases has Phil Klein solved? And how did that happen? What exactly did they figure out that a death wasn't, a suicide, that it was a murder, and they went about proving that? I'm asking a serious question. I know here, in Unfound's world of the last 8 years, I guess in my own little way, I put Steve Pankey behind bars. I was under oath. I put him behind bars. I have doubts about that. I've always been honest about that. I'm trying to do the right thing here. But like it or not, I did it. And certainly there are some disappearances that you could say that got solved right after Unfound's coverage, and start to think, well, maybe the podcast did have something to do with it. The statistics would say probably, not on all of them, but at least a few of them. Did somebody hear the podcast? I mean, like Matthew Braswell covered his disappearance, and just a few weeks later, bones are found in the area not far from where that truck was wrecked. Of course, the local disappearance here in Tampa with the young woman who ran off and was found alive. Once again, not long after Unfound's coverage. There could be some causation and correlation all there that at least I, as the host of this podcast, can point to. And what they can point to. So this defamation went nowhere. I think you just have to accept it. If you're in this, you just got to grin and bear it. I mean, certainly I know that better than anyone, knowing some of the reviews that Unfound has gotten over the years. You just have to grin and bear it or not. Me, I don't read interviews anymore. I don't read reviews anymore. Don't care. They don't matter. And this is also what has bothered me so much about how this is all done, specifically with Phil Klein. Why he replies to these people and everything else who say things about him is beyond me. I don't know. Brian, hi, Ed. When someone lies, they can no longer be trusted, so their trustworthiness goes out the window. Well, I get that. The problem is, Brian, my perception is that, there are a lot of good people who will lie to get attention. We're not, we are very, very flawed animals. So I get what you're saying. And it's like, when does that then good person become a bad person? This guy who went on that radio station with that radio host, it very well may be. I don't know anything else about him except him being on, and I know his, biography that he might have exaggerated or whatever else. I don't even know. He may be the best husband, father, family man, and everything else. But I do know him going on there and saying all those things about Tom Brown's death was wrong. So is he a good person, or is that going on that radio station and doing all that enough to put him in the bad category? If he raised a bunch of fantastic kids and everything else, how do we separate all that? It's hard. It's hard. So, but I agree with you. The trustworthiness goes out the window. I agree. I will tell you that, it hasn't really happened that much, but when I talk to people before they appear on Unfound, try to make sure they're close to the truth. Some things just can never be totally verified. All right, let's just admit it. There's certain things, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that every guest has told the truth about everything. Family members exaggerate, and that's why it's my job to ask the questions and leave you to figure out, what's what. And even if sometimes I ask a tough question of a guest and, maybe what they're saying just doesn't make total sense. That's for you to decide. But no way what I've ever done with that radio show did with that on that radio station with that guest. And for Phil Klein and the people who lost this lawsuit, you just got to understand the law better. Just have to. If you're going to be in this arena, you just have to put up with it. And that's the way it goes. So that I didn't know if you knew about that, but this, was something that had popped up. Did this start last year? I don't even remember how long this has been going on, but somebody did post, and it seemed to be on the side of the person who posted. I think was on the radio station side of things, and posted that in the discussion group, and that's the only reason I even knew about it. So I felt I better talk about it tonight. I want to now go. So really, that's the end of that. So let's go to this Friday's disappearance. And then I have one more thing I want to touch upon before I leave you tonight. This Friday, we're covering the disappearance of Joe Bushling from Dugway, Utah. In fact, he was a soldier at the Dugway Proving Grounds, the Army base. They're out in the middle of nowhere of Utah, near the Nevada border. And allegedly, he went out, and it wasn't his car. It was his friend's car, who was, I guess, overseas or something. He was driving his friend's car, watching it, keeping it while the guy was gone. Seemingly, the next day, on May 8th of 2011, Joe Bushling was due to leave Dugway, and he was eventually going to go to an Army base in Texas. Seemingly the night before, he went out for a drive in this car, got lost, and then called a guy he knew on the base saying, "Hey, I am out here. I'm lost. I ran out of gas. I'm cold. I'm trying to walk back to the base. Can you, I think I'm near this mountain. Can you kind of try to come out here and get me? Can you, do something?" And this is how Joe went missing. And this happened on May 8th, 2011. And once again, Dugway, Utah, Joe Bushling. This is a disappearance you will find on the Charlie Project and on NamUs. The car was eventually found. It was kind of in the general area that Joe allegedly, where Joe allegedly said he was. The problem we have is that the guy he called and the guy who claims to have even last seen Joe before Joe went out in that night in that car is a guy who just happened to be engaged to Joe's ex-girlfriend. And there also is a curious topic of how this guy was supposed to drive Joe to the airport that day, May 8th. But seemingly this guy never raised an alarm when Joe wasn't around. So we got a lot going in on this, in this disappearance. And the guest, being that I was just speaking about private investigators, is a private investigator that was originally kind of hired by Joe's family to look into all of this. Thing is, though, his name is Lex Bell, but he's actually a real police officer. And it was just a time he took away from being a police officer that he was in a private investigator in which he was asked to look at this disappearance. He is now actually the police chief of Moab, Utah, but that is not in the jurisdiction where Joe's disappearance occurred. But he will be the guest, and he took a look at this disappearance in 2021, so like 10 years after Joe went missing. There are a couple other things about this disappearance, not the actual disappearance itself, but how I ended up talking to Lex and not somebody in Joe's family. That is something that I will detail in the episode itself. And I think this will kind of be a new topic, even though we've covered many topics on Unfound from week to week, different themes. This will be a new one. And I think that it will give you good insight into my attitude covering disappearances and how I never let my ego get in the way. But you'll see what I mean on Friday when the episode comes out. But Lex did a fantastic interview, and I think you're all going to enjoy hearing him, and also got to ask him like some police questions about disappearances, which I get to ask him just some general questions that of course I don't get to do with family members. So you're going to find that interesting, I think, this Friday. So one more thing before I go, and it just has to do with all of your you and your mental health. All you Americans over the next 24 hours. We have an election, a big election here in the United States. I'm not going to do politics, by the way. All right, I'm not going. I'm not telling you who to vote for. I don't care. But I know a lot of you are worried. Hello, Jennifer. Just watch the stuff I missed at the work in the morning. Okay, thank you, Jennifer. How are you tonight? What I want to say is I know there are a lot of you who are very stressed out about what's going to happen tomorrow. Some of you want one person to win. Some of you want another person to win. Then even with state elections, you want one person to win, not the other person to win. And you're very stressed out about all of it. You got your high hopes and you have fears and everything else. Okay. Everything's going to be fine. You may lose tomorrow. All right. And that means certain things are going to happen that wouldn't have happened otherwise. I know that sucks. But this is the system of government that we have. And we have to be good losers. Being a good loser in a representative republic. We do not have a democracy. We have a representative republic. Being good losers is an important part of being a citizen, just like everything else, following the laws and everything else. Being a good loser is very important. That's the only way we can have what we have here in the United States. Still, I'm telling you, everything's going to be fine. May not go your way. Please do not get depressed about it. Don't, kick your puppy because of it. Don't do anything stupid because of it. Don't. It's not worth it. It's not. The United States has seen so many other decades and eras that are so worse than anything that could happen after the election tomorrow. The Civil War, the Revolutionary War, World War II, on into the Depression, everything. It's way worse than this. Remember that. Please keep this all in perspective. Do not allow the media to drive you nuts. Do not let it happen. You have control over your own emotions and mind. Don't let them do that to you. And if you don't win tomorrow, it's going to be okay. Trust me. All right. That's all I got for tonight. Thank you. I was feeling a little out of it, man. I felt a little lightheaded for a while. Maybe I didn't drink enough water or something before I started this tonight or something. I don't know. Hopefully I finished on a strong note. That's all I got for you tonight. Thank you for listening. Thank you for making time for all of you all over the world. And I got a big day tomorrow, writing, interviewing, appearing at Texas A&M. Really looking forward to all of it. And my mind will not be on the election at all. Good night, everyone. Keep your heads on swivels out there. Do not be victims. Charlie, great seeing you. Say hi to the kids to me when you get back to Colorado. Good night.